keeps laughing like a clown. I love those dear hearts and gentle people who live and love in my hometown. From Friday till Monday, that's how the weekend goes. I've got a dream house I'll build there one day with picket fence and grass road. I feel so welcome each time that I return. That my happy heart keeps laughing like a clown. Like a clown. Those dear hearts and gentle people who live and love in my hometown. In my hometown. Those dear hearts and gentle people who live in my hometown.
Something's going on with me. I'm not who I used to be. No. Reached the point where darkness is my comfort zone. I know it's not what you came here for. So fly like an eagle.
Thanks for helping us out with Trudy. You did good. Now, let's talk business. Let's see what you've got. Now remember, moderation.
We're open for business again. A little lighter in the pocket thanks to you. How about you buy something and make it up to us?
Let's see what you have.
It's all worth every cap I'm charging.
Hey there.
I got a store to run here. You gonna buy
Let's see.
a little bit of everything?
fellow traveler. Let's see what you got to trade.
Past 9. There are certain people, often well enough liked, genial souls whom one is always glad to meet, yet who have the faculty of disappearing without being missed. Crutchley was one of them. It wasn't until his name was mentioned casually that evening at the store gates that most of us remembered we hadn't seen him for the last year or two.
Yes, I remember. I was talking to old Crutchley at the time.
Oh, he's awfully sweet. I always liked him. Wasn't it queer? He seems to have dropped completely out of things.
The last year or two, he's been living very quietly with his people in Norfolk. Really? I heard from him only the other day, as a matter of fact.
I wonder why he's chosen to efface himself. He was rather a lamb in his way. I used to adore that shiny black hair of his, which always made me think of patent leather.
It's as white as the ceiling now.
Pardon?
I said it's as white as the ceiling now.
Oh, no. We're speaking of Simon Crutchley.
I mean Simon Crutchley.
But that lovely, sleek hair. What happened? Did he have a nervous breakdown?
Something like that.
Biotex, the new soak and pre-wash powder, presents Beyond Midnight by Michael McCabe.
It's a new one, but it's proved to be quite popular, so hopefully Vault Cooks will be considered as one of the many options for you in the best light entertainment category.
What have you been up to?
And now we're getting to some of the more fun categories. We're now moving into Toast of the Year.
Toast of the Year.
And I'd like listeners to remember that every year I let Mr. Wigglesworth pick a category. Won't be doing it next year, but this is his suggestion for this year. Now, these toasts all come from the Gin Review Hour with Susan, which takes place generally around 11 p.m. on a Friday night. So first, I'd like to... I think we've got January. January's entry is coming up first, so...
Down your throat, into your bladder. Which end it comes out.
That was January's entry. Definitely a fine moment for me there. The next month, we've got April's entry. Okay, hang on. Let's try and get it playing. Okay, here it is.
Not drunk is he, who from the floor can rise alone, and still drink more. But drunk is he who prostate lies
God, the smell.
without drink to rise.
Yeah, so that was April. And now we're going to move swiftly on to June. And okay, let's get playing.
So there are many good reasons for drinking. And one has just entered. If a man doesn't drink when he's living, how the hell can he drink when he's dead?
This is Caroline Saunders, Principal Geological Chemist for Bish Natural Gas Survey MD 16001. Preliminary results from Sample Site 2 are promising. We're posting similar concentrations as in the first site. Similar biogas makeup here as well, including a few organic compounds that I'm not familiar with. We've also discovered heavy lye residue in a naturally formed chamber at this excavation site. Lucky we were wearing caustics gear to begin with, or somebody might have suffered some serious chemical burns. I'd like to analyze this site further, see if there's any connection between those compounds and the lye deposits. My tech is telling me he needs a couple of hours to work on our ventilator unit. I suppose I'll move on to Site 3 in the meantime. Further analysis is for my own curiosity anyway. This is my authorization signature on Sample Site 2.
Got me talking to Mary. I've got toast. Oh yeah, what did you... The German likes his beer. The Pommy, I think that's us with Pommies. The Pommy likes his half and half. Because it brings good cheer. The Scotsman, my family was Scottish, I think. I don't really know. The Scotsman likes his whiskey. The Irishman likes his hot. And the Aussie has no national drink. So he drinks the bloody lot. That's for you, Mary. I know you're Kiwi? I know, right? Kiwi? Yeah. But you're there. That's for you. I love you. I miss you.
And on to the final category, which, well, not the final category, the penultimate category, which is the Overseer's Choice. And as many of you regular listeners will know, I'm the Overseer. Apparently, these things happen. If you're the last one left, you get to be the Overseer. Who knew? And as the Overseer, I get to pick the category, so I have chosen Best Toast of the Year.
Best Toast of the Year.
And so my top toasts of the year, and there have been many listeners, really many. So I think this was such a hard category to choose. I mean, there are many hours of agonizing. I mean, sitting alone. I mean, I spoke to Mr. Wigglesworth, but he can't taste. He struggles to advise me in this matter, but I really want you to be able to experience it the way I can. I have managed to create a five category shortlist. So, in no particular order, the nomination, Best Toast of the Year.
Nice.
It's been a staple throughout the year. The next category, the next nomination rather, cheese on toast. Some say it's better than sex. I wouldn't know, but definitely cheese on toast.
I'm getting out of here.
Then third category, combination, beans and cheese. Of course, the cheese is melted into the beans, so it has a really gooey texture. I mean, sorry, I've just thought about how good that was. Beans and cheese, number 3. And number 4, on toast. When you need those extra vitamins and fortification with, iron and such like, nothing beats Marmite on toast. Particularly if you're using wholemeal toast. It's a bold choice, I know, to not go for the white, but trust me, wholemeal, Marmite, classic. So that's the 4th nomination. And the last one is something my mother showed me when I was very little, and it's a bit of a risky option, listeners, I'll grant it that, but I think a lot of you in the wasteland will appreciate this category. this nomination, and that is, of course, marmalade and cheese. I know it shouldn't work, everything about it shouldn't work, but I think those of you out there who have experienced it will agree with me. Yes, Susan, you're absolutely right. It gels so well. So that's the end of that particular category. So they were the nominations for Best Toast of the Year. And of course, listeners, though, it wouldn't be the Westies without the absolute final category, and that is Broadcaster of the Year.
Broadcaster of the Year.
And due to staffing issues, Westport Radio, there is only one nominee, and that is, me, Susan Reed. So, human left in this. So yes, there you go. I am up for Broadcaster of the Year, and to be honest, we produce such quality content at this station, so to be even considered for this category is a real honour. So even if one of you votes, it will really, really mean so much to me. So that is the categories and nominees for the Westies. And once again, I'd like to remind you of the voting rules. In order to be eligible for voting for the Westies, you must be a member of Vault 97 or have left Vault 97 within the last 5 years. You must also be above 5'6" in height and have a body mass index of under 40. But yes, that they are the rules. I mean, it's all here in the Westie manual. There's no point complaining to me because I'm just the humble host. In fact, if you want to complain, vote to the Overseer. The Overseer will deal with everything. No, okay, well, that might be problematic. Tell you what, I'll leave the Westie manual next to the notice board on the 3rd floor basement, so you can all have a look at it. Don't let anyone say Susan is not transparent. But yes, so there you go. 3rd floor basement, that's where the rules are. Have a look at them, make sure you're eligible to vote, and we look forward to hearing from you, so take care. Now, listeners, I need to pay a little visit to the lavatory, but before I go, I'm going to play you out with a special song which is dedicated to all of this year's Westie nominees, including myself. It is Gracie Fields, the Northern comedian singer songstress, with Wish Me Luck as You Wave Me Goodbye.
Get him, boy! Get him.
Have a look at them, make sure they're eligible to vote, and we look forward to hearing take a little visit to the
Close your eyes, you're dirty.
song which is dedicated to all of this year's Westie nominees, including myself. It is Gracie Fields, the Northern comedian singer with Wish Me Luck as You Wave Me Goodbye. Love you all, need it.
Wish me luck as you wave me goodbye. Cheerio, here I go on my way. Wish me luck as you wave me goodbye. Not a tear, but a cheer, make it gay. Give me a smile I can keep all the while in my heart while I'm away. Till we meet
Wish me luck as you wave me goodbye. Cheerio, here I go on my way. Wish me luck as you wave me goodbye. Not a tear, but a cheer, make it gay. Give me a smile I can keep all the while in my heart while I'm away. Till we meet once again, you and I. Wish me luck as you wave me goodbye. Wish me luck as you wave me goodbye. If I go on my way. Wish me luck as you wave me goodbye. Give me a smile I can keep all the while in my heart while I'm away. Goodbye, everybody. I'll do my best.
Don't just talk. Talk Vault.
Really, Mr. Wigglesworth? Did that sound like the Points of Vault jingle? No, obviously that was Talk Vault. They're two completely different jingles. What do you mean I deleted the Points of Vault one when I was eating a ham sandwich? No, I didn't. I don't care. I don't know why you can't find it. Just next time, get it right. Good evening, listeners. You're listening to Points of Vault with me, Susan Reith. You may be pleased to know, that listeners, that we've managed to finally fix our receiver antenna. Those robots, they've been working extremely hard, and they've finally managed to get it so we can actually have contact from the outside world, which is a bit of a double-edged sword, but for the most part, it's been fairly positive. And we've been receiving a lot of messages from you guys out there in the wasteland, trying to contact me, Susan, #1 Westport radio host. And so I'm now going to read for you a selection of the
Thanks for your help.
we've received. So first of all, we have a message from a Preston Garvey. A settlement needs your help. 10 Pines Bluff, please help defend it against a ghoul attack. I don't know where 10 Pines Bluff is, but if anyone's nearby, maybe help them defend it from the ghouls. Okay, next message, also from Preston Garvey. Another settlement needs your help. Okay, that's kind of the same. Actually, okay, all of these are from Preston Garvey, so maybe we're just going to ignore them. But let's now get down to some other stuff that's not from Preston Garvey. Our first letter is from a Andrew Ormond? I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. I'm terribly sorry, Andrew, if I'm not pronouncing your name correctly. He has sent us a message saying, "Great show! Keep it up!" Thank you very much, Andrew. We fully intend to. Then we've got a message from Corey, or Corey. I'd love a mug. I see you've probably heard something about me finding a load of mugs from our summer roadshow back in the day. Yes, if I can find a reliable trader, Corey, I will certainly get one of those mugs shipped out to you. Next message is from a Kenny Ross. And Kenny says, "Your show is, without question, the best radio station I have ever come across, from DC to the Mojave to the Commonwealth. It's so good, I was amazed to find it hadn't been written by a professional comedy team." I mean, a professional comedy team. I'm not entirely sure, Kenny, you understand what I'm trying to do here. This isn't a joke. This is my life. I have to stay here because of the radiation. Anyway, but thank you, Kenny. Lovely to hear from you. And finally, listeners, I remember a few weeks ago I asked some of you to send me in some of your haikus as I educated you all on how to create those. And
Everything okay, boy?
You have been sending them in, so I thought I'd read a selection of my personal favourites. So first of all, we have Sam, who has sent us in the following. Just get in the mood, listeners. Yeah, zone. Right, let's go. Juxtaposition. Use of cutting words is hard. I am giving up. Well, Sam, quite frankly, I think that was a great haiku, so please don't give up. But listeners, never fear. Sam's actually sent us in another haiku. Westport Radio. The only thing worth hearing. I am entertained. Well, as you can tell, listeners, that's obviously tickled me quite considerably. I think that's a fantastic little haiku there. Okay, and we've now got some more stuff from a Vesper Zurova. I'm really sorry, Vesper, if I'm pronouncing that wrong, but I live in a vault and don't really have much interaction with people with funny surnames. So here we go. War, winter, rust strips. Left it alone, tries to tune. Nuka-Cola sips. Well, that's very good, like that. That's got a real imagery there. Vesper, that's fantastic, well done. And the next ones are from Eugen. And Eugen sent these through to us digitally, which is quite clever. I didn't realise we could actually receive stuff digitally. So well done, Eugen, for getting through to us that way. And Eugen has sent us the following. Wasteland Explorer. Out of purified water. Sips Nuka-Cola. That's good, bit of advertising there. I'm not entirely sure we here at WVR are allowed to solely advertise one product, so I just need to say this. Other cola products are available, listeners, not just Nuka-Cola. And his next entry that he sent us is Awake from the Grave. Radioactive skin glows to light up the night. Well, that's quite scary. Ooh, I don't think I'd like to run into one of those, Mr. Williams. That sounds quite terrifying. So goodness knows what's out there in the wasteland that sounds like that. But Eugen's obviously run into one. So well done, Eugen, for surviving that. And our last entry is from, well, I think he's probably our #1 fan. It's a William Four Fingers Connolly. Not entirely sure where the four fingers is coming from, William. Are you some kind of mutant? I don't take kindly to those kind round here, but hopefully it's just something else. And he has sent us, What's the Story in Balamori? Wouldn't you like to know? Yeah, that's not strictly a haiku, William, but we really do appreciate the support, and as soon as we work out how to get these mugs out, we will definitely be getting one out to you. Well, listeners, that's all I have for Points of Vault this week. Thank you very much for tuning in, and I'm now going to leave you with a little bit of a song, and we'll be back with our regularly scheduled programming shortly. Good night.
M-A-S-S-A-H. Come on, man, let's just sing the song. Am I happy? Yes. It's my lucky day. Take my new address. Leaving right away. When the porter yells Massachusetts, I'll be there with bells. Massachusetts, homesick as can be. Massachusetts, only place for me. Massachusetts, got a special date with that New England state. Man, I can hardly wait. How my heart will knock. Massachusetts, to see Plymouth Rock.
There's a good dog.
Wanna roll around Massachusetts, in Nantucket town, Massachusetts. I can hardly wait to hurry through that gate. I hope that train ain't late. You can't guess how much it means for me to be there. Childhood friends and childhood scenes for me to see them. Neath blue skies above Massachusetts.
This is Westford Radio Halloween Special Production Meeting number 6. No, Mr. Wigglesworth, that's not what I want. What do you mean, what do I want? Okay, I don't know what I want, but when I hear it, I'll know that's what I want. What do you mean that's not a lot to go on? Just look, we've got all these sounds. How about this one? Nope. Okay. Oh yeah, that's a good one. Yep, good suggestion, Mr. Wigglesworth. That was a terrible suggestion, Mr. Wigglesworth. That was no. That sounds like a kitten. How could anyone be scared by that? Oh, there's got to be something here. What's in this box? Mr. Wigglesworth, I found it.
You want me to do a scary voice, do you? Well, I'll give it a go.
Join us on the 23rd of October for the Westford Radio Halloween Special. I hope your mother's knitted you a scarf, because it's going to be chilly.
Finally found a fella, almost completely divine, but his vocabulary is killing this romance of mine. We get into an intimate situation, and then begins this character's conversation. He says murder, he says, every time we kiss, he says murder, he says, at a time like this, he says murder, he says, is that the language of love? He says solid, he says, takes me in his arms and says solid, he says, meaning all my charms, he says solid, he says, is that the language of love? He says, chick, chick, you torture me, zoo. Are we living? I'm thinking of leaving him flat. He says, dig, dig, the jumps the old ticker is giving. He can talk plainer than that. He says, murder, he says, every time we kiss, he says, murder, he says, keep it up like this and that, murder, he says, in that impossible tone, will bring on nobody's murder but his own. He says Jackson, he says, and my name's Marie. He says Jackson, he says, shoot the snoot to me. He says Jackson, he says, is that the language of love? He says, when he likes my hat, he says, what the heck is that? He says, woo,
Dog meat.
he
Hey, boy.
says, is that the language of love? He says, hep, hep with helium. Now, babe, we're cooking, and other expressions to wit. He says, we're in the groove, and the groove is good looking. Sounds like his uppers don't fit. He says, murder, he says, every time we kiss, he says, murder, he says, keep it up like this and that, murder, he says, in that impossible tone, will bring on nobody's murder but his own.
And that was Dinah Shaw with Murder, a song in which she gets so exasperated by her boyfriend's modern use of parlance, she is driven into a homicidal rage. And as a Brit, listening to the sounds of the wasteland, I can most certainly identify with her. And speaking of murder being a particularly horrifying subject, that brings us to our evening's entertainment. It is the 23rd of October, ladies and gentlemen, which means it's time for the Halloween hour. Anyway, and as all of you, my regular listeners, will know, the 23rd of October is a very important date for us here at Westport Radio. In fact, it's a very important date for all Vault dwellers. And we mark it, here at WVR, with our annual Halloween show. And our Halloween show would not be complete unless we played you the multi-part serial series, The Horror of Vault 66. So, settle down, listeners, and enjoy part 1 of The Horror of Vault 66. And fade in. Beautiful segue, Susan. High-five yourself. Excellent. Oh, this was brilliant. Did you like how I segued from murder to horror? What do you think was rubbish? You couldn't have done any better. I thought that was particularly fantastic. Murder is nasty. Halloween is all about scary, nasty things. It makes sense. What do you mean I haven't played the tape?
Hey, buddy.
The Horror of Vault 66. Good evening. Today's story is brought to you by Cynthy Cow. Cynthy Cow. You'd be mad not to. I hope you are sitting comfortably. I warn you now, dear listeners, soon sitting is the only thing you will be comfortable with. Today's tale is one I'm sure many of you are familiar with. It has long been passed around as a warning to vault dwellers against exploring those dark corners of our vaults, the ones that were never meant to be explored. But the question is this: you all know the story, but how many of you know the full story? It begins long before the age of the vault, back when our government and Vault-Tec were constructing our future subterranean dwellings. Back then, there was a man named Andrew. Andrew was an engineer. He was head of construction at Vault 66. Andrew wanted his vault to be the safest of all the vaults, but unfortunately for Andrew, his unionized workforce did not want to go the extra mile to ensure the safety levels he wanted. This left Andrew with no choice. He would have to complete any extra work himself. Day and night he toiled in the unfinished vault, often in the far-flung outer rooms. His workers would hear all manner of clanging and banging. Some days, when the early morning shift would arrive, they would find Andrew already there, banging, clanging, getting everything just so. He stopped going home. He had no wife or family, so no one complained. Eventually, he stopped leaving the vault altogether. Andrew instructed his workers to bring him supplies and sustenance, so he could remain where he was, working uninterrupted. It was after a month or so of this pattern that the workers tasked with delivering Andrew's supplies began to hear him talking to himself. "Don't surprise me," the foreman would say. "Man like that, bound to be a little funny in the head. Isn't that a sign of genius?" "Well, I guess that's true," the workmen would reply and go on with their day. But soon, those presenting Andrew with their offerings of steel and concrete began to hear not only his voice, but someone or something else. One day, a young workman built up the courage to say, I talk to myself sometimes, to Andrew. Andrew merely paused his work, looked the young workman up and down, and flatly stated, I never talk to myself. Only jabbering lunatics do such a thing, and resumed his work. The months rolled by. Once each room had been worked over by Andrew to his standards, the vault would expand. Andrew never left. He didn't even make use of the new state-of-the-art living facilities that he ensured the vault had. Instead, he would eat and sleep in the dark, unfinished rooms in which he worked. After a while, the managers at Vault-Tec began to wonder why he wasn't delivering his construction reports in person. The foreman working on Vault 66 explained what was happening, and disbelieving such a thing, the managers decided to pay the site a visit. Expecting to see a slovenly operation lacking clear leadership, the managers were amazed with what they found. Vault 66 was, indeed, the jewel in Vault-Tec's crown. Each room was finished to luxurious perfection. The foreman informed them that Andrew had adjusted many of the specifications himself, and beneath the stunning exterior of those lavish rooms were further modifications that they believed were enhanced safety features. However, that positive impression of the operation of Vault 66 was soon to be erased, for when the managers saw Andrew, they were appalled. No longer was he the neat young man they had hired. Instead, before them stood a wild man, his beard uneven and scraggly, his hair long and greasy, his fingernails claw-like and caked in dirt as if he had been burrowing out the vault with his bare hands. His physique was almost skeletal. No longer was he wearing the smart suit of a chief engineer. Instead, an ill-fitting, filthy boiler suit adorned with several tool belts, holding items clearly of his own design, including a hammer that appeared to be covered in some sort of red, sticky substance. Surely it couldn't be blood. But the most shocking thing about the young man's appearance was neither his attire or unkempt hair, but his skin. All the months away from the air and sunlight had left his skin a ghostly white with an almost waxy appearance. Andrew barely looked human. The managers involuntarily drew back upon seeing him. Eventually, and to his error, the most junior manager composed himself. Good God, man, look at the state of you, he said. This company has a reputation to maintain. We can't have our head engineers looking like the missing link. What will the shareholders think? Andrew stared blankly back at the manager and started to turn around to head back into his gloomy workspace. This further incensed the junior, who, despite his revulsion at the thing before him, grabbed Andrew by his arm and began to drag him towards the exit to the vault. Now, this junior manager was a stout fellow who had been a college track and field star. His superior build seemingly allowed him to move Andrew with ease. Andrew started to struggle, though. He began to wriggle and thrash about wildly like a rabbit caught in a snare. No, no, he murmured softly at first. I must complete my work, he shouted as if pleading with the managers who, aside from the most junior, were standing back, uneasy with the thought of assisting, but believing Andrew did need to be removed for his own good, if no one else's. The junior manager, although struggling, was clearly stronger than Andrew, and no matter how the wild man struggled, the firm grip of the junior could not be broken. After a few minutes of struggle, it seemed Andrew had given up. He relaxed his body, made himself a dead weight. A relieved grin crept onto the junior manager's face. There, he exclaimed, clearly out of breath. You see, this really is for the best. But his relief was short-lived, for then Andrew did something that no man present would forget for the rest of their lives.
You staying out of trouble?
Andrew began to howl. Not like that of a wolf or a dog, but a hollow, haunting scream. The foreman present later described it as a cross between the bombing raid sirens that would come in later years and a cow being slaughtered. In the confined space of the unfinished vault, the sound of his wails filled the heads of those present, shuddering through to their very cores, causing every hair on their bodies to rise, despite the warm temperatures underground. On and on and on and on he wailed, louder and louder. With each second he continued to further his scream, continued to push it out, to penetrate the very souls of those who were there to witness. It all proved too much for the junior manager. He let go of Andrew.
Don't tell Evelyn. The password? Buttercup. Why?
Andrew hit the metal floor, and fast as a greyhound from a trap, he fled back into the darkness of the unfinished vault.
Now we move on to the finer things in Vault. Good evening, listeners. I hope you enjoyed part 1 of the horror of Vault 66. We'll be rejoining that shortly. May the terror continue. And now, as part of the Finer Things in Vault, we are going to be focusing on the Antiques Vault show. Now, here in Vault 97, we have a, well, I guess it's an Antiques Vault. Clues in the name, I suppose. I found this a few years ago. Never really sure what to do with it, but also I did lose the password to get in, so I couldn't actually get into it 3 years ago, but now I've remembered the password. Toast. How silly. So now we've got the password, and now I've been able to get back into this vault. So I have decided that once a week I'm going to pick an item that harks back to the age of civilization and the pre-vault era, and look at some of the items and explain them to you, my listeners out there in the uncivilized wasteland, with the hope that if you listen to what I'm telling you and imagine some of these items, it might make you strive for something better. So, right, this room's quite big. There's a lot of things. Not entirely sure what some of them are. Oh, this looks familiar. I'll pick this one for the week one. This looks like a doll, and according to its label, this is an Edison talking doll. Now, thankfully, listeners, whoever created this Antiques Vault thought long and hard and decided to put a label on all the antiques within. So everything I need to know about this Edison talking doll are right in front of me. So here are some quick facts about the Edison talking doll. It was produced by the Edison Phonographs Works. Nice. I have to say, it is a beautiful, beautiful porcelain head, listeners. I mean, the craftsmanship is exquisite. And that was made by the Bayer and Truscher. It's a bit foreign, German, I'm guessing. Yeah, I think they were German. So they made the porcelain heads, and a very good job they did too. I wonder if, does Germany still exist? Maybe it does, I don't know. A few other facts about the doll. 2,560 of them were sold, which is quite a lot, and they were pretty expensive back in the day. According to this label, it was $20 for a dress doll, and the example I have here is a dress doll, and again, absolutely exquisite craftsmanship. I think it's been hand stitched. I mean, I'm trying to convey the beauty of what I'm holding in my hands to you, listeners, and it's very difficult. I mean, we're just looking at absolutely minute little details. There's little flowers on the dress, it's lace, and even her face. I mean, they've got little rosy cheeks, and little eyelashes all painted on there, and it's almost like the eyes are following me around the room as I move. I mean, how to do that's a great bit of skill. So it cost $20 at the time, which, adjusting for inflation, complete collapse of currency, recreation
Hey, boy.
of currency in the form of bottle caps, I would imagine that's about 2,500 bottle caps today. So pretty pricey. And in order to make the well, it talks. So the way that works is there's a crank shaft on the doll, and that protrudes from the back. And when it is turned, a cylinder phonograph record, which is sitting inside the torso of the doll, the stylus sort of gyrates on it, and the modulated grooves make noise, and it talks apparently. So when I turn this crankshaft handle, this doll will talk. Well, anyway, enough about all the facts, listeners. I know you're thinking, come on, Susan, what we're here for, or you want to hear this girl talk. So, listeners, for the first time, and I imagine over 200 years, we are going to hear the first recorded audio toy ever made. So bear with me while I crank the shaft, and let's go with the first time we've ever heard this baby doll talk. Was fucking terrifying. For God's sake, Mr. Wigglesworth, will you please bloody warn me next time I do something like that? What the hell was wrong with that toy? What child would want to have that in their home? I'm sorry, listeners. I appreciate this is a slight loss of decorum from me, but honestly, they gave that to children. I mean, what? Anyway, I'm going to have to kill that with fire later, listeners, because I think I may have just inadvertently released the souls of 1 million unborn children into the vault. Sort that out. With a super fun inspector. We move right on into part 2 of Vault 6. So here it is, ladies and gentlemen. It is Vaughan Monroe. Explain them to you, my listeners out there in the uncivilized wasteland, with the hope that if you listen to what I'm telling you and imagine some of these items, it might make you strive for something better. So, right, this room's quite big. There's a lot of things. Not entirely sure what some of them are. Oh, this looks familiar. I'll pick this one for the week one. This looks like a doll, and according to its label, this is an Edison talking doll. Now, thankfully, listeners, whoever created this Antiques Vault thought long and hard and decided to put a label on all the antiques within. So everything I need to know about this Edison talking doll are right in front of me. So here are some quick facts about the Edison talking doll. It was produced by the Edison Phonographs Works. Nice. That's it. It is a beautiful, beautiful porcelain head, listeners. I mean, the craftsmanship is exquisite. And that was made by the Bear and Trisha. I'm guessing. Yeah, I think they were German. So they made the porcelain heads, and very good job they do. I don't know if Germany, I suppose? Maybe it does, I don't know. A few other facts. about the dog.
Good dog.
260 of them were sold, which is quite a lot, and they were pretty expensive back in the day. According to his label, it was $20 for a dress doll, and the example I have here is a dress doll, and again, absolutely exquisite craftsmanship. I think it's been hand stitched. I mean, I'm trying to convey the beauty of what I'm holding in my hands to you listeners, and it's very difficult. And we're just looking at absolutely minute little details. There's little flowers on the dress, it's lace, and even her face. I mean, they've got little rosy cheeks, little eyelashes all painted on there, and it's almost like the eyes are following me around the room as I move. That's a great bit of but
Good boy. Hey. Yes. This ends now.
Recorded audio toy ever made, so bear with me while I crank the craft and let's go with the first time we've ever heard this baby doll talk. Terrifying. For God's sake, Mr. Wigglesworth, will you please bloody warn me next time I do something like that? What the hell was wrong with that toy? What child would want to have that in their home? I'm sorry, listeners, I appreciate this is a slight loss of decorum from me, but honestly, they gave that to children. I mean, what? Anyway, I'm going to have to kill that with fire later, listeners, because I think I may have just inadvertently released the souls of a million unborn children into the pool. So, anyway, whilst I go and sort that out, why don't I leave you with a super fun and scary Halloween song before we move right on into part 2 of the horror of Vault 66. So, here it is, ladies and gentlemen. It is Vaughan Monroe with the Phantom Stagecoach.
And the phantom stage goes by as the vultures go high till it hits the fan and crashes down the hill, and it's just a scream response as it tumbles through the air. That night they said old Nick himself was seen along the trail.
Was a gal the name of Sue that the trouble started through, and a box of golden nuggets so it goes.
He had turned the gambler down, and that night was leaving town, so he planned to get the woman and the gold.
Hey, boy.
And the phantom stage goes by as the vultures circle high till it hits the bend and crashes down the shale, and its horses scream with fright as it rumbles through the night. The phantom stage that haunts the canyon trail. He waited on the canyon as the light was growing dim. The first shot hazed the driver as the coach got to the rim. Lashed his maddened horses, but they hadn't far to go. They slipped and overshot the rim and disappeared below.
At dawn they searched the ground, but the wreck was never found. And when you pass the spot, you're not alone.
For at midnight on the trail, it's the lost souls tell the tale as they whisper that the devil took his own. And the phantom stage
Dead as can be.
as the vultures circle high till it hits the bend and crashes down the shale, and its horses scream with fright as it rumbles through the night. The phantom stage that haunts the canyon trail. The phantom stage that haunts the canyon trail.
Today, and look what he leaves me. It's not as if he didn't know we was having a party. I said to him, Mr. Van, as soon as you think I am, you follow.
That was not part 2 of the horror of Vault 66. That was The Larvins, a pre-Vault 97 show, which happens to be a favourite of Mr. Wigglesworth. It stars a angry woman hen-pecking her husband. I guess there's something about being shouted at by an angry woman that Mr. Wigglesworth identifies with. Can't think where he gets that from. So without further ado, I will now put the correct tape on, which is part 2 of the horror of Vault 66.
Now, part 2. The managers and foremen stood in silence, sinking into the calm night, one afraid of breaking may bring back a renewal of the terror they had just endured, the terror that had just scattered the battle into rocks and pieces. Eventually, it was the most senior amongst them who spoke. He was not a man to tolerate disorder, and he had seen enough. He instructed the foreman to gather a team of his strongest labourers and bring them back to him. He then looked at the junior, who had barely taken his eyes off the dart behind whom he fled, and said, "When the foreman brings those men back, we're going after them." The junior manager snapped his head away from the darkness and looked at his superior. His mouth opened as if to object, but he knew there would be little problem. Instead, he simply nodded and gazed at them. In what you would imagine to the juniors...
You staying out of trouble?
Foreman returned with 6 of his strongest labourers, huge men with strong practical build that only comes from a lifetime of heavy physical work. Each of them had donned a mining helmet with a lamp attached to the front. 2 of the men had lengths of rope coiled around their bodies, and all were armed with pickaxes. The foreman had obviously been through. The foreman, who, judging by his lack of air lamp and weapon, would not be good, handed the junior manager a helmet like those the labourers wore, rather than also furnished with a pickaxe, He presented him with what turned out to be a massive vault. The vault goes back another mile. Most of the rooms are correct in the plans. But God knows what else he's been doing, Bepper, said the foreman in a worried tone that did not suit his commanding figure. The junior manager thanked him and removed his suit jacket and laid it on a workbench. He looked at the rest of the management team, who, aside from the most senior, would not make eye contact. He then looked at the labourers. Right. I know you've been briefed. Let's get in there and get him out as quick as we can. With that, he walked forward over the threshold, where the metallic floor plating gave way to rough earth and into the darkness, with the others close. Tools were again, and there was an eerie silence. Managers and who stood. The next few days, 3 more search parties were made into the depths of Vault 66, but the only trace of the junior manager. 1 week after what was officially construction on Vault 66 resumed. A new chief engineer was drafted in, and as she surveyed the work, she couldn't help but marvel at what Andrew had completed. He appeared to have taken a new type of concrete that was stronger than anything he had seen. The tests conducted showed it to be completely impervious to radiation, as well as being able to stand many kilotons of explosives.
Let's do this.
Force. Unfortunately for the new chief engineer, Andrew was instructions as to how. Mr. Andrew went too badly, but it was a simple tunnel collapse that finished him and the others off. Wasn't it? They would ask each other in the bar after a long day of talking. Sure it was. You finish your beer and you'll soon stop worrying. The workers opened their glasses, down their drinks, and looked at life was swell. Finally, the vault was complete, and on October the 23rd, 2077, Vault 66 became operational. As with all Vault-Tec facilities...
Come on now, no giving up just yet.
As the years passed and the occupants settled into Vaulton life, reports started to trickle through to the overseer of unexplained noises in the outer sections. A 13-year-old boy playing hooky from school by hiding in a storage room was discovered in the medical center, white as a sheet. All he would say is that he had heard a voice, one from behind the walls of the vault. One saying, "All must join in." A scientist working in the botanical lab refused to return to her station after hearing what she swore blind sounded like digging noises. Again, from behind the bulkheads that marked the frontier of the vault. One day,
You may experience just the slightest hint of unease, but I'm sure that wherever you are, you're not feeling a thing.
Despite searching the records, the vault dwellers could find no meaning for it.
What a messy mind you've got here. I'll see if I can tidy it up for you.
Bookups, kids. Hello, children, and welcome to Vault Cup Kiddies. I really don't like that name, Mr. Wigglesworth. Can you change it? it is indeed time for Vault Cook's Kitties, and today we're going to be doing the super fun Halloween activity, carving a pumpkin. Yes, your very own. Now, if you followed my instructions that I released in earlier episodes this season, you'll by now have your very own pumpkin to carve. Our friends...
You're doing well. Quite well indeed. Most initiates never make it this far, you know.
With a great plethora, or surplus, as some might say, of pumpkin seeds, so you certainly should be able to find many of those in the wasteland or in your vault. And if you followed my instructions, you should by now have something that I have.
Been having a rough time, haven't you? Let Daddy patch everything up for you.
Only glowing a little bit now, but it's not very dark in here, so don't worry. You'll get the full effect of the pumpkin later on, when it gets all creepy with you. So, let me talk you through the stages of a pumpkin, and how we carve it, or rather, what a pumpkin looks like, and how we carve it. So, I'm going to step into the kitchen now, so you may notice a slight drop in the quality of the microphone, but rest assured...
Congratulations, my
sound
boy!
quality might
You're
not
gonna
be
pull
quite so
through and
good.
everything will be right as rain.
Well, children, and the first thing I want to do is inspect it. And the best way to inspect your pumpkin to make sure it is top quality is to give it a quick tap. So I've got my delightful specimen here, and I'm going to give it a tap. Ooh, that sounded That's right. You go in through the top. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use this little tool I have here. I call it the spinny marker. And I'm going to use the spinny marker to edge out a small circular area on the top of the pumpkin. Now, if you're struggling to identify the top of the pumpkin, children, it's the bit with the stalk. It really isn't hard. It's the bit with the stalk because, well, otherwise you wouldn't be able to stand it up. So, anyway, that's the top. So using my little spinny marker, I'm going to clearly, again, mark out a nice area to carve. Now, the important thing about size is that, remember, once you remove the top, you're going to be able to, you're going to need to be able to get your hand into the pumpkin to scoop out, like a ravenous beast, the innards of that pumpkin. So bear that in mind when you're marking out where you're going to carve the top. So let's move on to stage 2. I'm now going to use a cutting tool, and following these spinny mark lines I've made out, I'm going to saw at a slight inward angle around the marks I've just made in order to remove the top. So here we go, listeners. This is the first cut, always the deepest, and genuinely the most exciting. So here we go. So bear with me. I'm just now going to remove the top of the pumpkin. And we're done. When you remove the top of the pumpkin, you'll notice a lot of debris is still stuck to the lid. That's okay. Just focus on removing out the innards.
My pleasure.
Left inside the pumpkin, because when you, if you choose to put a candle in it, it might burn and catch fire, and then you'd ruin the pumpkin, and what would the point of that be? So let's get down to it, listeners, and really get stuck on in there, removing the innards of the pumpkin. I always think this sounds quite fun. It's sort of very gooey sound, almost like you're performing open heart surgery on someone. Excellent stuff. So let's get on with it. Okay, children, by now I hope you've removed all the gooey innards on your pumpkin, and the final thing you need to do to prepare the inside is pick up what is now the lid of your pumpkin, and using a knife or some similar cutting tool, carve off the hanging detritus, because again, you really don't want that to catch fire. So let's just quickly do that now. Okay, we are now done. So what we should be looking at now, listeners, is a hollowed out pumpkin.
You are welcome to our tribe.
So when the lid's back on, you probably wouldn't notice you've cut up the pumpkin. That's the trick. So if you got that, you are following my steps very well, children, and I'm proud of you, and so should your parents. They should be proud of you too. Anyway,
truly, the Mother Punga has bestowed her wisdom upon you, and your mind has been expanded.
Because it's very easy to want to just get on in there and stab that pumpkin repeatedly and just really release some rage, but you can't. No. You must do it properly, because otherwise it's not fun. So the next thing you really need to think about is the design. I'm going to go for a very classic, scary face, just some eyes and a spooky mouth, but you could go for anything you wanted to. You could go for a skull, perhaps, if you're quite artistic, or a spider, or any number of scary Halloween things. Drump's face, many things. Who knows? I imagine there'll probably be a lot of Drump pumpkins this year. But yes, many things you could do. So have a real think, sit down, really focus on what you want to do. And when you come up with an idea from your head, get yourselves a pencil and draw out on the pumpkin what you want to do. And the reason I say use a pencil is because if you get it wrong, children, you can just rub it out and start again. Because remember, there's nothing wrong with making mistakes. You learn from mistakes. As long as you learn from mistakes, everything's okay. So I'm now going to get my pencil, and I'm now going to draw my design onto my pumpkin. So here we go. There's some eyes. There's a nose. And well, the mouth is a little bit tricky, listeners, but I'm going to give it a go. Some teeth. Okay. Oh, I'm happy with that. I'm very happy with that design, listeners. I think this is going to be a good one. So now we've got our design all drawn out on the front of the pumpkin. So now all we have to do is take our cutting tools and start to cut around the shapes. And this is the most fun bit. You get to really stab it straight away and go straight through the flesh into the hollow inside, and then simply just start cutting away. You know, you can go a bit crazy, go fast, go slow, but always remember where your stenciled lines are and stick to them. Accuracy is important in a truly good pumpkin. So now I'm going to get to it, listeners. So let's all carve together, shall we? So everyone go away, get your pumpkins, and let's all carve as one. Oh, it's certainly harder work sometimes than you think it is. Some of these pumpkins can be quite tricky. I haven't. Okay, his nose is now the wrong shape. Let me just edit this. Remember, sometimes you'll make mistakes carving, children, and that's also absolutely fine. Very few pumpkin carving errors can't be rectified, so bear that in mind. Okay. And we're done. Well, I don't know about you children, but I'm terrifically proud of what I have in front of me. What do you think, Mr. Wigglesworth? What do you mean that doesn't look like a face? It looks like a face. What do you mean it looks like I've stepped? No, it does not look like I've stepped on it. Honestly, children, what we're looking at here, it's a lovely, happy Halloween face. And the final touch of any pumpkin is, of course, either its naturally radioactive glowing exterior, or add a small candle to the inside. And when you take off the lid, and put that small candle inside, make sure it is small, because if you use a big candle, you'll just burn the top and destroy the pumpkin. And again, you've spent a lot of time on this, children, so you should be proud of what you've achieved, and it does look wonderful, trust me, it does. And so you want a small candle so you don't burn it. So carefully remove the top of your carved pumpkin, place the small candle inside, use a long taper to light it, and then simply put the lid back on and turn off the lights of whatever room you're in, and your creation will almost come to life. So I hope you've enjoyed this Awkward Kiddies episode, and I hope you've all got a fantastically carved pumpkin.
Good dog.
And I'm sure your mothers and fathers are extremely proud of you and will enjoy the pumpkin with you. So until next time, children, this is me, Susan, signing off for Volkert Kiddies.
Volkert Kids.
In the Tower of London, large as life, the ghost of Anne Boleyn walks, I declare. For Anne Boleyn was once King Henry's
Learn from the Punga and accept simplicity.
Ah, yes, he did her wrong long years ago. And she comes up at night to tell him so. With her head tucked underneath her arm, she walks the bloody tower. With her head tucked underneath her arm at the midnight hour. She comes to warn King Henry, she means giving him what for? Gads up, she's going to tell him off for having spilled her gore. And just in case the headsman wants to give her an encore, she has her head tucked underneath her arm.
Hey.
Guess we never got a formal introduction, huh? Name's Nadine. I know you're not from around here. So, what brought you out here? You looking for fortune or running from your troubles? It's all a little fuzzy for me, but I've got a hunch. I'm gonna go do some snooping, see what I can figure out. Meet me by the riverboat in a day or so, and maybe I'll have something for you. Look, it's not that I don't want to go home or anything. I mean, I love my ma, even if she does make me want to claw out my eyes sometimes. It's just, I came out here to find a fortune, to make my mark, to be able to bring home something with me when I do come back. If you see my mom again, let her know I'll be coming back eventually. Just not quite yet.
Along the drafty corridors for miles and miles she goes. She often catches cold, poor thing, it's cold there when it snows. And it's awfully awkward for the queen to have to blow her nose with her head tucked underneath her arm. With her head tucked underneath her arm.
unexplained events continued, always on the furthest edge of the vault, always away from the surface, always where no light would reach. Children in the vaults would dare each other to sit in the storerooms with the lights off for as long as they could, often having someone hide amongst the goods, waiting to jump out and terrify the unsuspecting daredevil, who would then flee in a chorus of screams and curses on the pranksters. It was a child such as this who would be the audience for Vault 66's final mystery.
You're a lucky one, and it probably didn't do any permanent damage. Scar'll heal up on its own, and you'll be good as new. Of course, you'll still be missing a chunk of brain, but it looks like you didn't need that bit anyway. Now, hold still, and I'll see if I can't help you look like your old self again.
And stacked with a few hundred years worth of canned foodstuffs. The lights in the room were on, but David knew that once he had successfully navigated around the produce and sat down beside the far wall, his playmates would turn them off and close the door for 10 minutes, or as long as it took him to lose his nerve and hammer on it, screaming for release. Alright, I'm ready. And taking a deep breath, David marched purposefully towards the far edge of the vault, much like the junior manager had done so long ago. As soon as his friends saw him sit down, they turned off the lights and pushed the button, sliding the door shut. David was now alone with his fate. 6 minutes later, there was a crash from inside the room. The whole area where the waiting children were shook. An alarm sounded across the vault. Adults at work dropped their tools and ran to the source of the commotion. They found the children desperately trying to force the...
Whoa, whoa, whoa. That was all Jackson's crazy idea. I knew better than to volunteer for that suicide mission. Last time I wandered too close to that mansion, some old ghoul sicked his dogs on me. Screw that.
But not everyone.
David!
Called the boy's frantic mother.
What is this, a date? You start making a move, and it's stabbing time.
Everything else in the room was just as it should be.
Yeah, enough gabbing. Let's move.
For on the back wall of the storeroom, the very center it was on the floor, face down, 6 feet away, as if it had been popped clear out. The weight of it, of course, meant it couldn't just have fallen that far. Someone or something must have aided it.
Truly, the Mother Punga has bestowed her wisdom upon you, and your mind has been expanded.
There was only Earth. And strangest of all, at Earth.
For a time, we feared your mind had journeyed too far from your body, and you had departed our world, but you returned to us again, at long last. Yea, though your body will bear the scars of the ritual, your soul shall be forever strengthened by the experience. You are now welcomed in our cathedral. Enter, enlightened brother.
The Earth, when they touched it, was warm. David, much like Andrew and the search party, was never seen again. However, from that day on, not another sound was heard from the vault edge, for as slowly as the mystery of Vault 66 began, it ended quickly. Amazingly, despite everyone knowing it was not the case, the Overseer declared the incident a structural collapse, and not another word about it was mentioned. The patch was concreted over, the wall panel replaced, the children told never to play in the storerooms again, and slowly, surely, just like its victims disappeared, the stories of Vault 66 vanished too. A chilling story indeed, dear listeners. What was it that lay beyond the edge of the darkness? Had Andrew simply gone mad? Did a tunnel collapse kill him and his would-be rescuers? But if that's the case, why would the vault dwellers report hearing noises long after the incident, when it would have been impossible for anyone involved in this notional collapse to still be among the living? And what happened to poor David? Did he somehow get stuck in the earth after that wall panel fell out? It seems unlikely. Or maybe, just maybe, there are things. Things in the dark and deep that we were never meant to encounter, and unfortunately, tragically, those things were awakened at Vault 66. I guess we'll never know. Only the residents of Vault 66 might know, but you don't live in Vault 66. Or do you? One final twist in my tale, listeners. Vault-Tec, fearful that the story of Vault 66 would affect sign-ups for potential residents, renumbered it. Vault 66 was scrubbed from the lists and was instead renamed. But to what? I hear you cry. Well, that was a secret only the senior manager knew. Remember him? The man who sent the search party off to their doom? Yes, him. It was the secret he took to his grave. So who knows, my friends? Maybe you are a real resident of Vault 66. Just in case, stay away from the edges of the vault. Otherwise, whatever came for poor David and poor Andrew.
Bye.
Looks like another newbie in the tribe. And still able to string together whole sentences. Ain't you the lucky one?
Writer Tomorrow with me, your host, Susan Reed. And thank you very much for joining us this evening. You've been listening to our annual Halloween hour, and I hope you found it suitably spooky. Certainly I hope you've enjoyed the horror of Vault 66. I know we haven't played it for a few years. I found it in a box, actually, under some other boxes. So don't know why it ended up there, but certainly when I was a child, we used to listen to the horror of Vault 66 every single year, and it always was my absolute favourite thing. Halloween, as you know, Wastelanders and Vault Dwellers, is a significant period for all of us, I suppose, survivors is probably the best way to describe us, as we all know that the world sort of ended on the 23rd of October 2077. Definitely 2077. To be honest, the records get a little bit hazy, but one thing they're all very, very clear on is 23rd of October. So I always find it a slightly melancholic thing of thinking, you know, all the households, everyone was just getting ready for Halloween. I imagine people had already carved their pumpkins and put naff little decorations up in the windows, little paper cats and paper pumpkins, and everyone was getting their costumes ready and just getting ready to go out and trick or treat or organize.
You still remember your name? Matt? How's your memory? When I came back, there were bits in my memory where all I could recall was a white light and a jumble of voices. Crazy, huh? But you're not drooling, so you're doing okay. The rest weren't so lucky when they got their heads cut open. You sure you're feeling okay in there? You might want to check your head for a scar. We all get 'em after going to that bog. You know, the last part of the ritual. After you pass out, they get a guy to bring you back, cut open your skull, and free your mind. As in, he rips out a bit of your brain. It's supposed to be the part that holds you back, but that doesn't always work out so good. Anyway, you look like a lively one, so welcome to the tribe. My name's Nadine. It's all a little fuzzy for me, but I've got to meet me by the riverboat in a...
Uh-huh.
I guess you mean Jackson. He speaks the word of enlightenment at us, but he ain't fit to lead a song, much less this bunch of morons. I've been meaning to talk to him about this place, but he's off doing his meditation thing. Off at his magical thinking cave, I guess. We're not allowed to know where it is. He says we're not enlightened enough to understand. I swear, that stuff pisses me off so much. I thought joining would be all drugs and magic. But it's just the same crap as everywhere else. Guess that's why I trailed Jackson to his stupid mystery cave.
The only reason I know about religious texts is because I found an encyclopedia that was talking about things like Christianity, Judaism.
I've only been here a week or so, but I'm about ready to ditch this bunch of dummies. I already stole all the punga I could ever need. Hey, if you still want to know where Jackson's hiding, I can help you out. No reason for me to give a damn about this place, you know? His cave's under the cathedral, but it's hard to find. Use this key to get in through a wrecked ship down at the sea cliffs to the east.
Weird ghosts that live in the walls. And I have never once been standing at the edge of the vault and heard weird scratchy noises. Never happened. Yeah, you can say what you like.
We having fun yet? There's not much to say. They ran off from home to see the world and find a fortune. And I'm doing it now, okay? Yeah, enough gabbing. Let's move.
Time to put on a show.
System, a secure system designed by your friends at Vault-Tec to preserve our Western way of life. Those fine men at Vault-Tec managed to preserve all the comforts of creation. But what home would be complete without access to high-quality news and entertainment? That's right, the homes of traitors. And you're not a traitor, are you, Vault Dweller? In order to ensure the sound of freedom, Vault-Tec created the radio vaults, just like... These vaults are transmitting 24 hours a day, providing you with news, entertainment, and more. Each station has its own unique sound, so you can enjoy endless variety. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the sound of Vault-Tec.
It's time for Talk Vault.
Don't just talk. Talk Vault.
Today, listeners, I'd like to talk about Vault. I know many things, like me, are keen heavily irradiated wasteland. But one question I often find myself being asked is, Susan, when is the right time for this? That query should no longer be a concern, thanks to our latest innovation from our friends, Oakwood Pattern Industries. According to this vague yet evolutionary document, found in the garden section of our library, Oakwood Pattern Industries are the premier provider of atomic energized seeds. What are atomic energized seeds? To put it simply, as does the pamphlet in front of me, they are regular seeds that have been carefully treated with gamma rays. To be specific, those refined from the isotope cobalt-60. Now, as we are living in the aftermath of a nuclear apocalypse, I don't need to tell you that gamma rays will pass harmlessly through the delicate embryo in each seed, nurture the growing ovule inside, and cause a whole variety of changes which will affect the plant when mature. You can enjoy experimenting with both radiation and gardening techniques in the comfort of your own Vault-Tec room. While the dwellings are available, you can plant these randomly irradiated seeds and see what ripe, tasty crimes against nature they can produce. Isn't that wonderful? I don't have any of these atomic energy seeds myself, just the pamphlet, but maybe if you listeners have a dig around the storage sections of your vaults, or maybe visit the burnt-out remains of a gardening centre if you happen to live topside, you could get your hands on a few packets of these seeds and tell me what happens. Give me a call on frequency 4625 kHz and let me know if you've grown any of these atomic energized seeds. If you haven't, why not let me know your opinion on them? Have we taken science too far? Is this a great way to teach children about the wonders of atomic energy? Or is this just a frivolous use of our already overstretched water and soil supplies?
No longer.
Let me know.
Mystical power.
And while you get your hands green, I'm going to play you some...
Always be the minute.
At last! Yes! Desmond will die, and our long struggle will finally end the only way it could have, with me as the victor!
Yes, and you will be able to spread your knowledge across the astral plane for all those rising up to accept it.
No, not astral knowledge, you simpleton! Psychic domination, and that still won't be possible until you destroy Desmond's jamming device.
No need to worry, Enlightened One. We shall reconsecrate the mansion and remove the impurities disrupting your perfect guidance.
Yes, fine. Go destroy the house and its impurities. Just stop that jammer, and I'll be free of you morons once and for all.
Yes, we shall be free of all limitations. Thank you, Master. We shall be the instrument of your mighty reel. Hello? You are a fellow seeker of the higher planes, perhaps. What brings you here? I may be the man who leads our physical affairs, but I cannot claim true wisdom. I take my orders from my higher master, whether it be how to explore higher planes, or the decision to remove the destructive ghoul. All wisdom comes from the transcendent master.
You're the mouse that was scurrying around here. Not much to look at, but at least you're not drooling all over yourself. I can work with that. Now then, perhaps you can be more useful than that simpering spiritualist and his tribe of idiots.
What you are interacting with is merely a holographic projection, and a clumsy one at that. But it's all I can manage at the moment. As for myself, you gaze upon one of America's greatest minds, preserved through the miracles of science. Much more elegant than shambling on as some rotting corpse for all eternity, don't you agree? At the moment, they've been no use at all, but I have very few options. They can't even seem to remove a single ghoul from a house. More than you could possibly imagine with your squishy pink mind. But the only pressing matter at the moment is a device in his possession. He has a jammer that limits my projection range to this pathetic cave. Remove that and I can extend my reach so much further. Killing Desmond would be a nice plus, but I'm sure we can get around to that later. Desmond. That bag of bones and bile will pay dearly for his trespasses. Were it not for his interference, I would still have a body. Still, its absence has only honed my brilliance, so perhaps I owe him my thanks. An appreciation I'll show in the form of a quick and messy death. Ha ha ha! Desmond. That bag of bones and bile will pay dearly for his trespasses. Were it not for his interference, I would still have a body. Still, its absence has only honed my brilliance, so perhaps I owe him my thanks. An appreciation I'll show in the form of a quick and messy death. Ha ha ha! Of course I did, but that moron thought it was one of his adult visions. The real goal was to destroy the ghoul's jamming device. Honestly, those fools aren't worth the meat they're made of. A minion that can't follow directions is no use at all. Yes, away with you!
It's frankly fantastic. You put bread in, and you press a button, and you get toast. It's wonderful. I'm not entirely sure if any of you wasteland people have any of this stuff, but if you don't, I highly recommend you purchase or scavenge or whatever it is you're doing out there in the post-nuclear wasteland. Look for a toaster. Definitely, top tip. There you go. That's a Susan tip. Toasters are the way to civilization. Anyway, what else do we have in the kitchen? Oh yeah, if I go through this door, yes, this is the hydroponics bay. This makes enough plants for 400 people. Not really sure why there's so much food, as it is just me, but the robots still keep making it. So I guess that's lovely. That's really nice of them. So we've got 400 plants that make lots of wheat. Makes a lot of bread. I have to say most of it goes to waste. I'm guessing probably most of you in the wasteland are starving and killing each other for food, so that's probably not the best use of resources we've got going on. Good job none of you know our location, otherwise I'd expect a few visits. What else do we have? Oh, here's our storerooms. This is where we have 1,000 years worth of Synthi-Cow. You remember Synthi-Cow, don't you, listeners? It was an artificial beef substitute. Had that jingle. It was Synthi-Cow. You'd be mad not to. I have a lot of that. That and wheat. My diet's very... No, it's not varied, but I'm alive, so I suppose that's all we can say. Oh, there's a dead radroach over there. Yes, I have dead radroaches. Sometimes I eat their meat. That kind of... I like eating radroach meat because it makes me feel like I'm one of you in the wasteland. Because I imagine there's a lot of these radroaches out there, and being that you don't have state-of-the-art hydroponics or 1,000 years worth of Synthi beef or Synthi cow, yes, you probably eat a lot of this. So when I eat radroach for a bit of a mix-up, as I like to think of it, I feel like I'm one of you, my listeners. So just don't think you're suffering alone, listeners. I suffer too. Oh, standing here makes me reminds me when I was younger. Because obviously this Vault 97, we've been going nearly 200 years now. But when I was a child, we had Mr. Oliver, and he had a cooking show, and he was brilliant when I was young. He would make soufflés and coq au vin. I don't really know what that was, but it sounded rude, so I suppose we all liked it. He went a bit funny towards the end, though, and he started talking about how he would only ever cook with the other white meat. Don't really know what that was. A lot of our maintenance staff went missing at that time, though, so maybe... Anyway, yes, oh well. Maybe one day I'll dig out one of his shows for you all out there, and you can listen to the culinary genius of Mr. Oliver. I think that would be lovely, wouldn't you? Yes. Anyway, what else have we got? Oh, the freezer section of our vaults, kitchens. I haven't actually honestly looked in here for years. This is where we stored a lot of, well, our cryo facilities aren't very good here at Vault 97, so there was a point when the overseer thought it'd be a good idea to store people who are sick in the freezers. And maybe one day, when our medical facilities got up and running again, we could revive them. I'm not entirely sure there's a cure for bullet in the brain, but one can but hope, eh? Anyway, it seems like Mr. Wigglesworth is, according to my Pip-Boy, saying the radroaches are gone now, so I'm going to be heading back to the studio. However, whilst I do that, I'm going to play a few more songs for you, and let's, I'm guessing about food. So Mr. Wigglesworth says he's set them up, and I trust him implicitly. He's a good robot. Anyway, I'll be back in 5 minutes whilst I make my way back to the studio. Take care.
Down beneath the deep blue sea, where one day I chanced to be, the mermaids gave a very swell affair. I looked out from my submarine, and the clearest all I could see, not a soul on earth I knew was there. Of course they did the tango, and no one made a slip. Of all the guests assembled there, each one could do the dip. At the mermaid's fancy ball, in Father Neptune's hall, the little eels were pickled and they did a naughty wiggle. Although it shocked a few old crabs, it made the bluefish giggle. At the mermaid's fancy ball, they had no bar at all.
No, we've talked about this, not this song! Mr. Wigglesworth, what on earth do you think you're doing? How many times have I told you about this song? I don't care. Don't take that tone with me. I can have you run down a scrap metal at any time. Do you think my listeners really care what you like? No. My listeners do not care for songs about mermaids, and for the last time I have told you, every time we play this song, it sends the robots working in the water treatment department into shutdown mode. And now it's time for my mandatory downtime. Very, very lucky, Mr. Wigglesworth. However, you have another thing coming. I'm going to send for Mr.
I knew it! I knew that little bastard was behind all this.
Playlist rubbish.
After all these years, he stuck his head out. And this is my chance to cut it off. Figuratively speaking, of course. Of course, I fucking want you to do something else. You don't expect me to troll around this mud hole myself, do you? Or what? You think I haven't been shot before? Think that you, over the thousands who have tried, can take me down? You best wise the hell up and play along. I'll get what I want and you'll get rich. And then we can go about our separate goddamn ways. So, those half-wits are getting messages from the professor, right? So he's off somewhere broadcasting to him. But without those buggers to do things for him, he can't do much for himself. So, we cut off his ability to talk to him, and he'll need to try harder. Maybe then I can find the squishy little worm and finish him off for good.
Is how golf became America's most dangerous sport. You're listening to Westward Radio, broadcasting today for a brighter tomorrow, with me, your host, Susan, 16 times Westward Radio Broadcaster of the Year. And speaking of Broadcasters of the Year, it is of course nomination season for this year's Westport Radio Awards Show, or the Westies, as we like to call them. I know you and I always have such a good time listening to the Westies. It's a glamorous occasion. It's one of the few times of the year I get to roll out the old fancy evening gown. Anyway, you can vote for who you would like.
If I know Professor Carver, and I do, he's using a high-frequency cognitive sign broadcast. I have the perfect device to jam up his little talk box. All you need to do is take it to the highest point on the shore and install it. Easy, right?
They'll be nominating for this year's Host of the Year. Fingers crossed, eh?
Right, attach it to the bottom car, and turn it on and spin the jammer to the top. No fucking problem. I'll watch from here and turn it on. Then we'll see where our little professor is. Now go.
Hey, just in time. Found out who went rooting around in our skulls, and you'll never guess who it was. As a totally unrelated hint, I'm in charge of this boat now.
Goodness, if you could get through that.
I consider it payment for what he did to my poor, sliced-up brain. I was going to do the same to him, but I figured you'd want the honor. Seems that when the tribals would send someone to the swamp, he'd be waiting around to nab them when the punga seeds gassed them. He'd do his amateur surgery for the tribals and let us wander back. all in exchange for panga fruit to trade. Sweet little deal he had going on. Yeah, he seemed nice enough, didn't he? I wouldn't have figured it out if I hadn't snuck into his engine room while waiting for you. From the look of it, he kept every bit of gray matter he cut out, and he had quite a collection. You can take a look, if your stomach's up to it. And while you're in there, feel free to give Tobar my love, preferably with the sharp end of a hot knife.
However, Mr. Wigglesworth has been pestering me for quite some time now to start his own robot orchestra. And due to boredom and perhaps fed up with him asking me, I've relented and let him start his own orchestra. So, for the last 6 months...
Damn right! Now, why can't the rest of the world figure that one out? So that leaves me with a boat, a load of panga, and a wicked scar. Damn if I hadn't earned that adventure I came out looking for. I think I'll take over running this ship. I can travel as I like, and always head back to the wasteland to see Mom. Not a bad way to live, huh? Of course, you can always ride for free.
Take it away, Mr. Wigglesworth.
Yeah, enough gabbing. Let's move.
Excuse me.
We having fun yet? There's not much to say. I ran off from home to see the world and find a fortune. And I'm doing it now, okay? Yeah, enough gabbing. Let's move.
It is I, Professor Calvert. Don't bother looking around. I'm in your mind. But aren't you Desmond's faithful little employee? Coming to gum up my work, are we? Well, I have a better idea. How about instead of playing his game, you destroy that nasty little device? Deposit it in a nearby trash compactor, and you will never have to worry about it again. I assure you that the gratitude of Professor Calvert is worth a great deal more than that of a washed-up old limey. Excellent, most excellent. I knew that you would make the right choice. And now it is time for Desmond to meet his end. He's made a fatal mistake. Return to Calvert Mansion. I have something there that I'd like you to see.
Orchestra, you did very well there. Did you write that yourself, Mr. Wigglesworth? I wasn't entirely sure robots could compose. Guy Strauss. Is he famous? You wrote quite a lot of music. Are you going to play more of him? It seems quite good. I enjoyed that. Yes, just if the water purification robots maybe tighten up the oboe section a little bit, but other than that, absolutely fantastic. I think you've got a real winner there, Mr. Wigglesworth. Anyway, yes, listeners, so that was Mr. Wigglesworth and his orchestra playing the Blue Daniel Waltz by a man named Strauss. Perhaps I should actually pay some attention to the finer things in Vault's archives and play a few more of them. I quite enjoyed that. Anyway, now it's time to move on to our next segment. It is, of course, time for Vault Beats. Now, listeners, as you know, for Vault Beats, I move into our state-of-the-art jazz lounge. Vault Beats, as you know, covers a lot of the great poetry that humanity created prior to the pre-wars. I have no idea if you're still making poetry out there, Wastelanders. I hope you if you are, and you're maybe short of inspiration, that's what I'd like to think Vault Beats is helping you with. I'm going to educate you now on a different type of poetry, one that we haven't yet played in Vault Beats so far. So this week's Vault Beats, I will be demonstrating the ancient art of the Japanese haiku. What do you think? I don't know where Japan is, it doesn't matter where Japan is. Just they wrote poems about nature and stuff, and I'm going to talk about them. Anyway, a traditional Japanese haiku is a 3-line poem with 17 syllables, written in a 5 by 7 by 5 syllable count. Most Japanese haikus focus on images from nature. A haiku emphasizes simplicity, intensity, and directness of expression. So in order to give you a little push in the right direction, listeners, I've written a couple of haikus on myself, which I'm now going to perform here, live, in the Vault 97 Jazz Lounge. And I've entitled our first poem, Wintertime. Wintertime. Nuclear winter. A gift from the fallen bomb. Everyone is dead. As you can see by that last poem, I used some of the cutting words that they recommend you use in a haiku, such as bomb and dead. So that is, for listeners, that's something that they do advise in haiku. What haikus want to have is a cutting word included in the poetry. So I feel in the last poem I achieved that. And now we're going to move on to the next poem. I've entitled this one, Vault, Sweet Vault. Vault is very safe. I should only fear outside. But I am alone. See, this poem I'm talking about being safe, but also being alone. I'm not really sure what actually else there is message in this. It's a 3-line poem. There's a great deal of subtext here. So my next poem is entitled Good Work. Radio is life. The voice across the wasteland. Maybe no one hears. As you can see in this one, I'm talking about life and wasteland. So that's what's called juxtaposition, which is another element that the haiku is quite keen to involve. So there you go, listeners. Cutting words and juxtaposition. My next poem is entitled Sunshine. I dream about sun, warming all those it touches. It's never touched me. And there you go, listeners, that poem is about nature. Sun is nature, and I've talked about nature, and I'm talking about sunshine. And my last poem is actually a little bit of a tribute to the guys I work with. As you know, I'm here with a lot of robots, listeners, Mr. Wigglesworth being the one you're probably most familiar with. So this last poem I've written is entitled Robots. Dull metal faces, whispering to each other. Do they want me gone? And that's all we have for this week's Vault Beats, listeners. I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope you will try and write some of your own haikus to bring a little bit of civilization back to the world. If you write a haiku and you'd like me to read it on air, why not do that? Why not just write something down? As I said, it's 3 lines, 5 by 7 by 5 syllables. Try to include nature and cutting words and juxtaposition. And if you'd like to submit one of those to me,
You know the frequency to send these messages out to, so send them to me, Susan, with the tagline Vault Beats, and I'll try and read them out on next week's show. So definitely send them in, 5625 kilohertz, and I'll read them out as soon as I get them. No one's actually sent me any so far, but definitely next time, 4625 kilohertz, and I will read them out for you. And maybe Mr. Wigglesworth will play some exciting music to them, like he's just done with mine. Excellent stuff. As we're in the jazz lounge, how about some smooth, sweet jazz sounds?